Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, I've been saying stay tuned, hit the subscribe button and you will see what my next car is to replace my Audi e-tron 55 Technic Comfort and Sound Pack as it reaches the end of its 3-year lease. Well, let me show you what I am driving today. And here you can see it's not that different. This is the Audi Q8 55. So this is the updated facelifted version of my old car. Drives a little bit better, and we're going to show you through some of the details on this car. Now here's the confession, this is not my new company car. My e-tron 55 was out on our driveway. Bad stuff happened that we weren't expecting when we were out. Anyway, this is from the accident management company. This is a rental car just to replace my car while it's being repaired. And then my new car should be here very soon. And if you want to know what that is, you're going to have to hit the subscribe button. So, to look at the exterior, well, it really hasn't changed that much. What I do like on this one is that it is in a nice dark colour. And this, I think this might be the magnet grey, the non-metallic free option on the colour. And this actually looks fantastic. I think it is a great looking car, especially with those silver roof bars on it and these alloys. This one's on 20-inch wheels, which is the standard wheel option on the base models. And these new slightly more aerodynamic sport wheels, I think, look absolutely terrific. There are a few kind of minor changes, and we'll point out what those are. So we just gained, just in the black here, they've got the Audi logo in here, and it says Q8 Quattro. So we come round to the front bumper, that's where the biggest differences are really. Oh, and if you are getting a Q8 or an e-tron 55, get real mirrors, because the camera mirrors, pretty rubbish, water gets into them and they cause you all sorts of problems. So that's just something to be aware of. Charging ports on both sides again, exactly as in the e-tron 55. We've got a slightly more aggressive air scoop here at the bumper, and now we've got this new flat Audi logo, which I think this one on the front here, it looks just a bit cheap and plasticky. It's not very nice, but this slightly more modern design on the grille, I think that is quite nice, and it just lifts the car up a little bit, makes it look a little bit smarter. And at the back end here, again, now the Audi badge at the back actually looks quite smart, this flatter badge, and we've got the Q8 badge on the back as well. Now got e-tron in big letters, just to make sure you know it's electric and not a big thirsty polluting SUV, and a slightly different rear bumper design. And again, I think this looks really tidy. One of the great things with the Audi, of course, is the boot size is enormous, and you can see there that I have got a very big rear boot with the parcel shelf. Now, one thing I will show you is just under the boot floor. Now, it is a 569 litres, I think that's unchanged. You have got a space for this collapsible spare wheel, but if ever you had to put that collapsible spare wheel on the car, what would you do with the wheel that you took off? Because that isn't going to fit under the floor here. And then because this one has the standard audio system, not the Bang & Olufsen, this subwoofer on the side is quite a bit smaller. That gives you a slightly better storage well under the boot as well. So as a family load lugger, these things are terrific. And we've loaded up for self-catering ski holidays with all the ski gear, driven them down to the Alps. I've done that a few times. You can see that on the rest of the channel. So my car is the e-tron 55 from 2021. It's the base model, which is called a Technic. That was then followed by the Sport, the S-Line, the Black and the Vorsprung. Some of the earlier cars were launch models. They're a lot like the Vorsprungs. And now the range is slightly different. The Technic has gone, so the base model is now the Sport, and you can still get the S-Line, the Black and the Vorsprung. Vorsprung comes fully loaded with all the toys on it. The small differences on this, I've gained a wireless phone charger just down in the centre. It doesn't seem to charge the phone very quickly, but it does make it very warm. but nevertheless it's a nice thing to have. The eagle-eyed amongst you will see that there is no speaker up here because this car doesn't have the optional Bang & Olufsen audio system on board, because my Technic has what's called the Comfort and Sound Pack. Other differences, well, I am really missing one feature, and that is the advanced key. So this one, you can open the doors, unlock with the key. There is no keyless entry, but once you're in the car you don't need to do anything with the key, you can just leave it in your pocket. So I think Audi call this keyless go, whereas mine has got the advanced key with the keyless entry and the keyless go. I keep grabbing at the door handles expecting it to open and they don't, so that's a bit frustrating. The other thing I'm missing is the 360 cameras, although I've got to say the standard reversing camera with the 360 parking sensors with the visual graphic is very good, and I am coping without the 360 cameras, but sometimes if you just want to double check this straight into space, using that 360 camera to give you that overhead view, you can just see the lines down either side of the car to know you're central into space, is a really nice feature to have. I'm also missing my panoramic roof. Now I'm not a big fan of dark car interiors. Certainly the Q3 that we had as a courtesy car once, that had the dark interior and it just felt very dark inside. But the base models with Audi, my Technic, this Sport, have the light colour interior, but once you go up through the range to the S9s and the blacks and the Vorsprungs, you get the dark roof, and I think it makes it a much darker interior. Personally, I'm not a fan, but I know some people do like it because if you're loading things in, it doesn't show the dirt quite as much should you rub anything on the roof. The differences for how this drives, well, the obvious difference really is the 55 now has a much bigger battery. I think it's up to something like 107 kilowatts. I don't know how much of that is usable. The real world difference is this will go another 40 or 50 miles on top of the previous car. So when I charged this up to 80% last night, it was showing 210 miles. My one would show 180 after a charge to 80%. So you've obviously got a little bit more charging, but on a long run, I've seen out of spec reviews in the States with Kyle, 15-minute charge, you don't add any more miles to this than in my one. So on a road trip, I don't think there's a significant difference, but maybe with this, you'll just make slightly fewer charging stops and run longer between the charges. So you've got the bigger battery. Performance-wise, it's the same. They're all 335 horsepower, except when they're in sport mode, which you can activate just by one more click on the drive select. Now it's in sport mode and it's 400 horsepower for up to 10 seconds at a time with that kind of boost function. To be honest with you, I've used it 2 or 3 times in the 3 years that I've owned the car. It's something I can live without. 335 horsepower is ample, which brings me on to my choice of next car. So one thing I've really looked at is the Q8, which is what this is. But I was looking at the Q8 50 because now the 50 has the same size battery as my old 55. It's 95 kilowatt hours. Instead of only 86 being usable, that's gone up to 89. And on top of that, allegedly a slightly more efficient car as well. So, you know, the Q8 50 would do the job nicely for me now. I don't think I would miss the performance difference between the 50 and the 55 whatsoever. I think in the real world you don't notice it. But one thing that I am really noticing with this Q850 is I'm slightly more aware of the road surface. The road surface, you are aware that you're going over manhole covers and imperfections in the tarmac. You tend to just hear the little thud. You're aware that you're crossing a drain cover or something. Whereas on my one, it tends to float over the top. This is just a little bit tighter. But the real difference in practice, that just means that when you are driving this down a country lane, it just feels a little bit sharper. It's just as comfortable as it always was, but it just feels a bit sharper. So as you take it into a corner, it just feels slightly more precise on the steering. It just drives a little bit better. It's only a tiny thing, but but I really like the way this drives. I prefer it to my old car, so I think that is a small improvement for the Q8 over the previous generation of e-tron. So the Q8 has allegedly got some efficiency improvements, as well as the changing of the suspension bushes and a few little tweaks to that suspension, which are giving that more precise drive. It's meant to have a new rear motor, which has got 14 coils in it instead of 12, which is meant to be much more efficient, and the changes to the front bumper are meant to be a bit more aerodynamic. So what difference am I seeing with efficiency, having driven this around for about 150 miles now? Well, the answer is absolutely no difference whatsoever. I've been averaging, looking at this just on the screen, I'll bring it up on the MMI. My long-term average in this, with not very long-term, 130 miles, I have done 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. The long-term average over 40,000 miles in my my e-tron 55 is 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. Efficiency-wise, this is exactly the same as the old car. And in the world of electric cars, that's pretty atrocious. But I will say, because they charge up fast, that's still a really good car. And I can fill up the battery on this for £7 or £8 with one of the smart overnight tariffs. And you know, if you're going to go 200 plus miles for £7, who cares how efficient it is? If petrol was 50p a gallon, we'd all be driving around in V8s. We wouldn't be looking for the most efficient little petrol hybrids. So let's not worry about efficiency, but it's just a shame that it isn't comparable to other cars that are out there. So what do I think of the Q8? Well, a Q8 50 for me would be a terrific car, and it's better value for me as a company car on the lease because it's cheaper to lease than this Q8 55. Yes, the extra range, it's nice to see a big number left on the battery, but the 50 would be ample, as I know. That would give me another kind of 10 or 20 miles on top of my car. And if you look back to the older videos in the channel, you'll see that I was getting range tests of 205 miles in the winter on the motorway and 220 in the summer if I stick to the speed limit. So the old 55 has plenty of range for what I do. This 55 will of course go a bit further. What I really like, and I thought I would miss the softness of my car, is the fact that this one is so nice to drive. That tiny change, that little bit of sharpness in the steering, that slight more precision in the way it drives. I think that this is a fabulous car, and it's retained all of the really great qualities about the old e-tron 55.